Welcome to this afternoon's Innovation Series breakout session, which is entitled Understanding Demand for Decarbonization and Grid Modernization. My name is Rob Wilhite from Black & Veatch. I'm also a board director for GridWise Alliance, one of your sponsors for this event. Along with my two fellow panelists, who we'll introduce in just a second, we're going to explore a really interesting discussion that supports the day's overall theme of corporates and investors driving change. And in many cases, commercial and industrial customers are driving demand for investments in decarbonization and grid modernization with or without governmental policies. And as I previously mentioned, I'm really delighted to be joined by two senior leaders in the energy industry who have agreed to share their respective stories that relates to achieving their own clean energy ambitions. So first, we have Alec Saltikoff, who's Global Head of Sustainability and Energy at JP Morgan Chase & Company. And in this role, Alec oversees programs related to energy efficiency, sustainability, renewable energy, and maximizing decarbonization synergies for the firm's global real estate division. And this includes the implementation of JP Morgan's Renewable Energy by 2020 vision. And in addition to his company roles, Alec also provides external leadership via his roles as Vice Chair of the World Green Building Council Advisory Board, and as a member of the board of directors of the New York Energy Consumer Council. And of particular note, Alex has been recognized as a two-time honoree in 2016 and again in 2019 with the prestigious New York Award, Energy New York Award in Leadership and Innovation. And in addition to that, Alec holds really an impressive array of professional certifications, including Certified Energy Manager, Energy Procurement Professional, Energy Auditor, and a couple of others. So Alec, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Our second panelist is Trent Bowers, who's Chief Commercial Officer and Executive Vice President of Sales for Enbala Power Networks, which is now part of Generac as of 2 months ago. Trent has been in the energy and utilities industry for about 20 years and has over 30 years of sales and management experience. He is responsible for all the revenue generation activities for his company, including sales, business development, commercial operations, and pre-sales business units. And prior to Enbala, Trent has developed a proven track record in sales, marketing, and executive management at some of the leading technology firms such as Siemens, Alcatel-Lucent, IBM, and Landis+Gyr. And he's also highly focused on core aspects of grid modernization, including AMI grid analytics, software applications for controlling and optimizing DERs. And I look forward to talking about that. Trent, thank you for also joining us here today.
I appreciate it, Rob. Nice to be with you guys.
Let me just open our discussions, gentlemen, with just a couple of brief comments. And then Alec, we'll turn it over to you to start first. But let me first say thank you to the GridWise Alliance and Clean Edge for the opportunity to join this distinguished panel. You know, in these rapidly changing times, it's pretty fitting that our digital twins meet today as we all adapt to this new manner of conducting virtual conferences. And secondly, for those not fully familiar with Black & Veatch, let me mention just two quick statements about our firm. We are proud to have a 105-year-old track record of consulting, engineering, construction, and monitoring and maintaining critical assets in power, in water, telecommunications, transportation, and even emerging fuels such as hydrogen all across the globe. And in fact, corporate customers are indeed a key segment for Black & Veatch, in addition to the utilities we work with. And this is particularly true for solutions that include distributed generation, microgrids, battery energy storage, asset management services, and even utility grid services. So just a couple of quick notes from my perspective. So Alec, as I promised, let's turn to you first. And I know that JP Morgan Chase has made some commitments towards clean energy and sustainability. Could you tell us more about these ambitions and current achievements, as well as a bit more about your interests and focus areas? Alec?
Certainly. Thank you. At JP Morgan Chase, we have developed rather very comprehensive strategy in order to obtain and achieve 100% reliance on renewable energy by end of this year. The strategy resides on 4 pillars. First one is energy efficiency projects. We started with LED upgrades, spent about $250 million for global implementation. We deployed building management systems, we deployed phase change materials, we deployed rather very broad spectrum of all technologies that's available off the shelf. But we also started endeavoring into developing new technologies with consortiums of companies and capable firms. We started moving into more digitized energy type of footprint. We started implementing blockchain tracking systems. We started looking into artificial intelligence and combining this implementations. We feel strongly that we can reduce our own carbon footprint just by virtue of being more efficient. Second pillar is on-site renewable energy generation. Currently, we are running probably one of the largest on-site renewable energy deployment in CNI space, and Black & Veatch is helping us with that. We are targeting several thousand locations, and we're also advancing different type of technologies, namely flexible solar panels. We started looking into perovskites. We also started looking into small fuel cells to be powered down the road with either hydrogen or biogas. We started looking into battery storage, pretty much anything and everything that can help us to self-generate own electricity, plus for resiliency purposes. Pillar number 3 is off-site renewable energy generation. We were the first bank on Wall Street to sign for VPPA with a deal in Texas, Project Buckthorn. We're also negotiating several additional deals. We recently signed a deal with for community solar. And the list goes on and on and on, but the most recent announcement that we made is for the deal between JP Morgan and Brookfield Renewable and ClearTrace, where we physically delivering electricity from hydro assets of Brookfield in New York and tracking that delivery from generation to consumption in near real time on blockchain, therefore creating immutable audit trail, immutable provenance, and later on reconciling it with RECs as bundled RECs altogether. Obviously, it's being done in concert with grid operator. In this case, it's NYSO, but also authorities having jurisdiction like New York Gas. And fourth pillar, final one, whatever is left will be covered by renewable energy certificates or other tradable instruments globally. But if you pull it all together as one integrated solution, we are focusing on reduction of our own carbon footprints, focusing on maximizing on-site generation. We are synchronizing entire portfolio between demand and what we generate, and we are putting blockchain-based solution in addition to AI, in addition to IoT, therefore moving into IoT plus AI plus DOT type of scenario, creating unified grid, unified tracking process that allows us to say that we are delivering on what we say we are delivering. Back to you.
Fantastic. There's a lot there, Alec. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure it'll generate some questions too as we move along during this panel. So Trent, let's turn to you for a second. Your firm, Enbala Power Networks, was, as I mentioned, recently acquired by Generac. And, you know, I've always viewed Generac for many years as providing traditional generation solutions to corporate and industrial customers, among many types, I'm sure. Curious to hear more about how Generac sees the Enbala solutions and distributed energy coming together in the market, as well as, you know, your specific areas of interest and focus. So, Trent?
Yeah, great question, Rob. And for the audience, I do believe it's probably great to kind of start with maybe the foundation of why Enbala plus Generac, because it's an incredible, I'll use the word partnership. We are operating as our own entity within the Generac family, and we'll probably cover that in a little while. But to start with, as you mentioned, you know, Enbala is a software company. You know, we are focused on the connectivity, the integration, optimization of distributed energy resources, you know, both for our customers, both for the utility client, both for energy service providers. So, you know, we are a real-time operational control platform for those types of assets and for our customers. So then when you kind of bridge that and pair that with the Generac family, as you mentioned, they have a full portfolio of power products. Significantly, they're market leaders in home standby units in the generator market, also commercial industrial generators. So both natural gas, diesel, biofuel, etc. So when you look at where Generac is heading, which is the important piece for this conversation, it's in the clean energy. I mean, the visionary, the executive leadership of Generac is looking at they know where they've been, they know where they've been successful, but where do we go from here? So building this entire portfolio of clean energy solutions is part of the long-term strategy. So now we have battery energy storage. So we have storage solutions for our customers. We've got software solutions for our customers. We have analytics solutions for our customers, both on the commercial side and the residential side, which is important because we want to be able to serve all the market segments from the residential side, from small, medium business to both, commercial and industrial. So we're bringing a true portfolio solutions approach to the market. I'll kind of pause there and then cover maybe a little bit around what we're doing on the sustainability and decarbonization efforts, if that makes sense, Rob, or if you want to cover that later.
No, go ahead if you'd like to add to start that now.
Sure, it is kind of obviously it's a multi-pronged approach. We're a software company on one side, and we've got the manufacturing, company being Generac on the other. So if you look at sustainability initiatives and decarbonization initiatives, it is a two-pronged approach. And what I mean by that is it's internal and external because we're providing these solutions, to this customer base. So on the internal side, we continue to look at innovative manufacturing practices, reduction in waste, the reduction in manufacturing the products, offering a variety of solutions with regard to the generators and batteries. We're also leveraging alternative resources at certain facilities, plug-in hybrid vehicles, distributed energy resources, things of that nature. So we're doing that internally. And then externally, what we're doing for our customers is bringing these sets of solutions so we can help them with their sustainability goals and their green initiatives and their decarbonization initiatives around storage, around leveraging DERs in their geography, things of that nature. So those kind of the two-pronged approach between the manufacturing side of the house and then the go-to-market side of the house.
Okay, thank you for that, Trent. Let me ask you both a question since, I want to tie this back to grid modernization, which is kind of the broader theme for this conference. As of last week, I was reading that of the top 30 U.S. electric and gas utilities in this country, more than 20 of them, more than 2/3 of those utilities have committed to net zero carbon goals. And this certainly will have some impact to their own capital spending plans, especially as it relates to grid modernization. So my question to you is, how does the increased spend that we should be seeing over the next few years in grid modernization, how does that impact your clean energy goals for your company and what you think about in terms of solutions related to grid modernization?
Alec, would you like to start?
Go for it.
I would defer to you. I think that's actually more of your area of expertise.
You got it. No problem. It's extremely important, Rob. I mean, we're working with our client base is global in nature. These investments are going towards. I mean, this is just really at the core macro drivers. You're looking at a belief in the science behind climate change. You're looking at environmental stewardship being a driver, and it's at the corporate executive level. And this drive towards a low carbon economy. I mean, those are three, kind of bigger picture, kind of major drivers. But what that's doing then is allowing this investment both on the OpEx side and the CapEx side with regards to newer technology. So software as a service has gained a lot of momentum with regards to being able to provide solutions and connectivity and integration and visibility, deeper clarity into networks. You've got advanced sensoring happening. We've had for quite some time advanced metering, but it also is allowing the implementation and deployment of distributed energy resources such as EV charging stations, solar paired with storage. Obviously, reading a lot about that. Increasing the hosting capacity for the utilities to bring on more renewables is absolutely critical. Because most of these resources we are bringing on from a renewable perspective, very intermittent. There's a lot of variability. So grid stability is obviously extremely important. So it's really instrumental, extremely significant and relevant in our world, because those are the products and services that our customers are demanding. But being able to have the budget, be able to have the spend, and to help them, with those sorts of technologies that are increasing the reliability of the network from a grid modernization perspective is extremely important.
Yeah, and I think beyond even the utility commitments, as I referenced, we're seeing increased spend, or at least planned spend, for grid modernization, in recognition that commercials and corporate customers are driving a big part of this agenda. Last I saw, of the 50 U.S. states and jurisdictions for regulating utilities, 49 of those 50 had some type of grid modernization regulatory proceeding underway. So it's affecting all parts of the country for the most part. Alec, let me turn back to you for just a second, because you opened with your 4 pillars, and could you tell us a little bit more how you're adopting and using some of the advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence and blockchain technology? I think we'd love to learn more about how those applications are being useful for you.
Sure. Well, there is a concept that's being developed called climate accounting, and we are collaborating with a consortium of companies trying to put together not just practical tools to be used, but actually showcasing prototypes, proof of concepts, and deploying it in real time kind of environment. Blockchain is rather a unique tool because it does give you a couple interesting applications. One, it allows you to capture data in high fidelity, high granularity, but also it allows you to structure the data in a manner that nobody can tamper with it just by virtue of cryptography. And applied to specifically environmental attributes and energy, digitizing energy, and like RECs, carbon footprint, what have you, it could be anything related to building, can be related to solar panels on site, can be related to if you really think about it, that creates an opportunity for future application of machine learning. Because once you have structured data, AI can sift through it in a matter of days instead of in a matter of months. Simultaneously, patterns in data always exist, but creation of this link between IoT, machine learning, and distributed ledger technology, that's exactly what we're after. And so far, we've been quite successful in that. We've been prototyping, experimenting, talking to different firms, growing the consortium. As I mentioned, we did announce the deal recently with Brookfield and ClearTrace, but we think the trend is only going to grow. And I don't think it's going to be just simply segregated into carbon or electricity. I do think we are approaching rather a substantial shift in the market when it comes to how energy is stored and how energy is being transported. And I think hydrogen, green hydrogen, is going to play a major role over the next couple of decades. If you will take a look at, for example, recent publication and outlook published by DNV, they're projecting substantial amount of growth when it comes to energy consumption. And we, humanity, as technological civilization, we're defined by our ability to generate and consume energy. And if we want to progress further, new tools, new applications, new paths forward will be developed. Putting hydrogen on the grid, what does it allow? It allows you to store energy pretty much indefinitely without degradation, not something that batteries can say. It allows you to switch transportation from internal combustion engines to something different. It allows for deployment of fuel cells. In this particular case, would be PEM, proton exchange membrane fuel cells. It allows you to build brand new infrastructure across the board and actually ease the pressure on the grid that's coming from, will be coming from electric vehicle charging stations and people and companies charging buses and trucks. So I think there will be a diversification when it comes to methods of transportation and storage of energy. But if you want to be green, what does it mean? Does it mean that you can just simply go and buy racks and that will be sufficient? Or you can actually have absolute proof that you are doing what you are doing, and therefore giving you true climate accounting, true accountability. That's something also I think regulators might also appreciate.
Rob, we can't hear you real quick.
If I unmute. Trent, thank you, Alec, for that. It's fascinating to see the adoption of these technologies in a way that it actually helps drive the market too, and that's very important for where we're going with clean energy. Trent, any aspects of green hydrogen and some of the work that Enbala is doing that can also contribute to this area?
We continue to explore that area. I mean, so predominantly as we opened up with Rob being a software company, we're really focused on the capabilities expansion of our platform to take into account all of the distributed energy resources and new assets that are out there being deployed around the world. From a Generac perspective, I can't speak in depth on that. They continue to explore other alternative fuels. Obviously started in the diesel, moved to natural gas, have now been working on and now actually delivers a biofuel product, but it continues to explore those areas.
Okay. Well, back to the number of projects that we see taking place in clean energy. Green hydrogen is certainly a growth area, Alec, as you pointed out, and we certainly see that. But it's interesting. How do you see the advent of local or even state level policies impacting your business as it relates to advancing decarbonization and sustainability? Because it's not always at the federal level, but it seems to be happening more at the local and state level. Any comments regarding the impact of those more localized policies?
Well, I can offer the following commentary. New York City recently passed law called Local Law 97, effectively imposing carbon tax on commercial real estate. And it's being stipulated as $268 per metric ton of CO2 if you are above certain threshold. What does that mean in practical terms? And as soon as Local Law 97 kicks in, some buildings will have ability to avoid the fine, but eventually, because the law escalates up until 2030, quite a few buildings throughout the entire real estate portfolio of New York City will be actually above the threshold. And once you run simulations, sometimes if you just simply take two buildings, for example, in Midtown Manhattan, which would be a somewhat average energy footprint per square foot. Day one, probably those two buildings will pay roughly about $3 million in fines per year. Full force of the law, it will exceed actually $10 million. What does that mean? It means that operating expense just went up, net operating income went down, and if you apply standard cap rate application for valuation, probably you're going to see an impact on valuation of the building itself. But what to do with that? One of the provisions of the law, the Local Law 97, allows for trading or tradability of carbon or efficiency credits. But how do you define those, and what type of application you have to go for? That's not defined yet, but I would like to leave you with the following idea. Let's say if you have a blockchain-based trading platform that can be trusted by participants and feeds the data, performs proper calculations, captures the data, makes it immutable, and creates asset-grade data capture or tokenization. If you have a portfolio of 5 buildings, 2 of them are energy hogs and 3 of them highly efficient buildings below the threshold. Day one, you don't have a platform like that. Day one, 2 buildings will pay the fine, 3 buildings will not. Entire portfolio pays the fine. If you do have a system like that, energy efficiency credits can be captured and transferred inside the portfolio from 3 buildings to 2 buildings. Therefore, the portfolio does not pay the fine. However, I think where the most impactful outcome is going to be, this law will incentivize quite a few landlords to actually go for high level of decarbonization, high level of energy efficiency measures, because this law will allow them to create those assets and potentially sell them in the open market at a discount to $268 per metric ton of CO2. The same principle works for ITC. The same principle works for quite a few other jurisdictions where incentives are available in the form of either taxation or avoidance of such. And the market will adapt, I have no doubt. We're working very closely with several firms, and we're experimenting with it. But I do believe that local regulatory applications will have rather profound impact on which city does what. And I do believe that the age of carbon tax is upon us, we like it or we don't. and the market has to adapt to it and develop proper tools. That's what we're trying to do.
Trent, and thank you, Alec. Trent, any local laws impacting your clients and the drivers for their investments in clean energy and sustainability?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, if you look at local climate action plans, energy efficiency goals and mandates, anything around zero carbon initiatives, electrification, where that's being not necessarily more of a mandate, more of a vision, more of an objective, but almost citywide as well. If you happen to take a look up in the Northeast, NYPA's 2030 plan, obviously, what it means for their customers. I think it's their strategic vision 2030. I think SCE out in California just released, a vision and strategy plan not only for the grid, but for their customers. So, all of this has impacts on the growth and the evolution and the kind of the deployment of technologies for us, and helping our customers. So if you think of primarily from our perspective, sometimes from an Enbala perspective, our customer is generally the utility, but we're generally building programs for the utility to deliver to their customers on the commercial and industrial side. So we're generally partnering with them to help roll out these programs. And without those incentives, without those mandates, without those local laws, it makes it tough for them to, kind of build the business case, if you will. So all of these are significant, helping, significant, progress towards deploying electrification, plug-in hybrid vehicles, retrofits, energy efficiency plays, if you will, from a roadmap perspective. So absolutely, important and seeing more and more of it, kind of every quarter, if you will. I think we'll see more of it as we move into 2021 for sure. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, that doesn't matter. I think you're seeing that again, a real belief in global climate change, across multiple markets.
So speaking of markets, it sounds like from the answers from both of you that making investments in clean energy is not just simply the right thing to do, which it is, but it can also be more profitable to do so. If we're creating these localized markets and creating the opportunity for investors to invest in new technologies and in building automation, in trading markets around energy certificates, green energy, and energy efficiency. Would you agree with that statement that it's now becoming an attractive financial investment vehicle for many corporate customers to begin with?
Well, I can really speak on behalf of other corporates, but every single project that we do, it does go through underwriting process, and the capital we deploy has to make sense in addition to decarbonization. And I do believe that technologies will improve, they will become ubiquitous. So pricing point for kilowatt or pricing point for kilowatt hour will continue dropping. That's the nature of R&D cycle. New technologies will emerge, like for example, perovskite is probably going to make a profound impact on the way how solar industry is working. Of the emergence of hydrogen as a storage for coming from renewable energy sources also is going to have substantial impact. The trend has never stopped. It's just simply exactly the same perpetual cycle of developing new source of energy and utilization for it.
Yeah, I agree with Alec. I guess I'll give a little different point of view, if that's okay, Rob, as far as just through a different lens. So, I mean, broadly speaking, you look at sustainability and decarbonization, and then how do you profit from that, or how do you continue to run a profitable, that's probably a better term, a profitable organization. From a customer perspective, a commercial perspective, you're deploying these technologies generally help you, unlock new revenue streams, whether that's being able to now participate in a demand side management program, participate in a market, you participate in trading. There's also the savings side of it with regards to reduction in energy costs. There's demand savings depending on where you sit, in across the country. That's kind of from an energy, utility, commercial perspective. But, also if you really kind of peel the onion back just a little bit larger, I mean, look at the growth and popularity amongst sustainable products that are being, kind of sold and deployed. I mean, from clothing to nutrition to, makeup, you name it. I mean, there is it's a huge growth area just regarding sustainable products. So investing in improved processes, addressing old systems, reduction in materials to make products, building from sustainable products, I believe is a growth area and an emerging area that we're going to continue to see, and absolutely is something that is, I don't think it's ever going to go away for sure, but it's also just, I think it's proof points in our industry from an energy and utility perspective and a commercial perspective, all the way down to even maybe the small, medium business perspective that, operating a sustainable, entity can be profitable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll give you just another example from the Black & Veatch perspective. We had just a month ago made an announcement that we will no longer anywhere globally design and build new coal-fired power plants, and that's very significant. That's been for many decades a very significant part of our business. So that's a big commitment. But then we followed that up 3 weeks later with an announcement of our sustainability strategy as a company. So we're also reducing our company's environmental footprint. We're also addressing all forms of environmental, social, and governance, and looking to make our processes even more effective from an environmental perspective, but also looking at social justice and making sure we have targets around diversity in our employee and professional staffing levels. And so these are things that we don't want to do just because we think it's the right thing. It's also because we see our customers moving in this direction, yeah. and it's a way of staying in touch with where our customers are going, and certainly corporates, as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, are an important part of that. Utilities are an important part of our customer base, and so to some extent, I'm addressing the question that we see posted here in the session, which I'll read from Michael Bates, which is, what impacts are you seeing from Wall Street signaling a moving investment away from carbon-based generation? I just mentioned one example that we've taken at Black & Veatch. It's changing the mix of the services that we offer to the market. I don't know if either one of you would like to comment to that particular question or not.
Well, specific to this question, there were a couple public announcements made by financial institutions, namely Norges Bank, Central Bank of Norway, largest manager of sovereign fund, and also BlackRock. It seems that financial institutions of that scale started looking into the underlying carbon footprint of certain industries or certain assets and started considering that as potential risk implication, and that risk needs to be assessed over time.
Absolutely. Alec, I have to ask you, do you believe that if with the next couple of years as the local law 97 in New York City is implemented, do you think other cities are looking at this leading example from New York City? Do you believe other cities may go down a similar path?
I believe the trend has started. I don't think it's going to reverse itself. And I do believe that it's not going to be just on the level of cities, probably it's going to be on the level of countries. Europe is actively looking into it. The European Commission put together an advisory board to study taxonomy. In the past, I've heard that Singapore and Hong Kong were looking into it as well. London was looking into it as well. So I do not believe it's going to stop anytime soon. Is it going to be absolutely omnipresent? Probably not anytime soon. However, I do believe that in some shape or form, there will be applications like that.
And Rob,
very good. Trent?
Yeah. Hey, Michael, how are you out there? It's not exactly going to answer Michael's question, but from a different point of view, if you look at what corporates are doing, some large power, commercial, industrial, corporations are investing in, where you're seeing investments go in. So look at just what Generac just has been doing. If you follow Generac, they bought a battery company, now they bought a software company. So if you look at what Emerson has done, if you look at what Shell has done and the investments that they have made, so you can go down the road, Schneider, you name it, you can kind of continue to go down some of the big, industrials and technology firms. They're investing in clean energy products, services, solutions, IP, which is helping to address what is happening on the energy side. And Mike, I know you're an expert there as well, but I mean, you're seeing the phase out of coal plants, and you've got to address that supply mix with other technologies. So virtual power plants, you name it, distributed energy resource management. There's all sorts of other technologies, to name a few. But you continue to see the investment in the corporate world, obviously being followed by Wall Street and how that impacts, share price, things of that nature. So absolutely, there's in my opinion, investments being made that is impacting share prices for these companies in this space.
Yep, very good. I appreciate that, Trent. So, gentlemen, let's look forward 10 years from now. Where do you think we will be in terms of the notion that we're making a change and a transition to the clean energy and sustainable world, where we're modernizing our electric grids to adapt to intermittent renewable sources and battery storage? But what does the future look like? Can you envision where we will be in 10 years' time? Perhaps let's just focus on the U.S. for just a moment. What would your view of our energy future, our clean energy future, look like in the year 2030, if you can imagine that?
I'll start, Alec, and you look at our fuel mix. Let's just say it's 50% renewables. You'll see a proliferation of solar plus storage across the nation. You'll see electrification of cities. Intelligent cities, I think, is maybe even a better word. Smart cities. I know that used to be a thing and still is a thing, but with automation and sensoring, you'll continue to see, as far as the grid goes and the partnership with the consumer, transactive nature. So we always talk about the transactive grid. I think you will see now transactive grid, two-way flow of information and data and power flow. New technologies there, new fuels. So just to get the conversation started, Alec.
Directionally, I do agree, but also one of the topics that people typically don't cover is the greenest energy is the one that you did not consume. And in this case, I do believe that energy efficiency technologies will advance, namely smart business building management system overlays, application of machine learning and artificial intelligence. We're looking at several prototypes. One of the prototypes that we recently have been putting under the microscope shows over 25% savings at LEED certified building with modern BMS. What does that tell me? It tells me that either there was fundamental MEP flaw in the design, or we're just simply not seeing what we should be seeing there. We're driving the buildings based on kind of rear view mirror application instead of trying to forecast where the building needs to be and how it needs to react to internal and external conditions. If you put something like that on the grid and you put these buildings into highly efficient mode, then it literally changes the composition of what needs to be out there, because the pressure on the grid will go down and landlords will be saving substantial amount of money and will not be generating carbon footprint. At the same time, as I mentioned, hydrogen probably is going to become much more accepted form of energy storage, and specifically for transportation. I know that Black & Veatch is studying it, and we've been talking to Black & Veatch specifically about it, just to kind of to wrap our minds around. I think municipalities will start drifting towards hydrogen-powered transportation, namely like buses, for example. In Europe, there are several successful firms that have been deploying such hydrogen buses in various municipalities. And it opens up completely different paradigm altogether. You can actually even take municipal waste and via gasification process can generate hydrogen from that. That's probably is going to create not just zero carbon, but maybe even negative carbon footprint by some definitions. Mm-hmm. So possibilities are quite a few, to be frank, but I think it will be a combination of digitizing of energy, shifts into energy storage and energy transportation, and increasing efficiency of where we consume energy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, just the key word that you just used there, and kind of forgot it, full digitalization, decentralization, obviously. I mean, if you look at the 3Ds, decarbonization, I mean, it's just going to be a huge overriding kind of themes 10 years from now. I do believe in electrification of the buses. You've got companies like Proterra out there. You've got other corporates driving electrification. The Amazons. You've got major manufacturers that are saying they're going 100% electric. So absolutely on the transportation side, absolutely agree.
So it sounds like from both of you that we are on this path that is either being driven through directly by corporates or also in response to any local or state policies that may also be enacted locally, and we're finding that this train has left the station. It's the momentum is there. We are moving forward, but in the same time, there's been an increased frequency of storm events impacting reliability for electricity supply, even natural gas supply, and even water supply. So the view of resiliency from a long-term perspective of preparing for major events, be it storm events or maybe even cybersecurity type of events that could have massive impacts to commodity supplies. This is also starting to drive some investments, especially on behalf of the utilities who need to harden their systems. And so I guess the question for both of you is, from a commercial industrial customer perspective, how does the focus on resiliency impact your thinking around clean energy investments? Or does it at all, for that matter? Because it certainly is impacting the utility side of grid modernization investments, especially.
Yeah, back to the climate change comment, right? So absolutely, the severity, the quantity, the frequency of these major storms and these major events, whether it's hurricanes. I'm down in Florida. I think we had 30, just not in Florida, but we had 30 named hurricanes. I think was a record this year. The wildfires out in California, what has happened out in Colorado, obviously the Northeast with heavier, more frequent nor'easter, things of that nature. It, unfortunately, is something that we have to deal with, and that is something that drives our business, in a positive manner. Unfortunately, kind of weird to say that, if you will, but I mean, bringing solutions to help harden the grid is part of what our entity, our corporation, being Generac plus Enbala, is really all about. So bringing innovative solutions around generation and backup and automatic transfer switches, solar plus storage, leveraging other sources for flexibility in the network that's not from typical generation. So building these virtual power plants that can form and be isolated and be kind of a microgrid or a nanogrid if we're looking at communities. So those are all the kind of scenarios, all the types of solutions that we're talking to our customers about every day.
I agree with that. I think resiliency will be in some shape or form achieved by a combination of battery storage and fuel cells. Typically, fuel cells can operate on natural gas, and even during blackout, quite often gas distribution networks, they have their own redundant systems, and they will continue being operational. The question is, does it make economic sense or not? And fuel cells are not as ubiquitous as diesel generators. So there will be some review, some shape or form. We are definitely looking into it. We're actually building a couple of facilities like that. Definitely risk will be assessed, just like any other risk before, and certain mitigation protocols will be put in place. Certain risk multipliers will be assigned to different assets, because at the end of the day, commercially reasonable decisions will be driving investments and ability to retain assets or to dispose of the assets. And therefore, it's just a simple matter of solid statistical analysis and developing industry standard practice.
Great. Thank you both for that. So we're in the final minutes of our session here. I would just ask you both for your final thoughts, any closing comments, and any predictions that you'd like to share with this audience, as it relates to the topics that we've been discussing today. Trent, why don't I start with you in that? Sure,
Rob. I mean, I believe everything that we talked about today is obviously top of mind from a commercial perspective at the executive suite within our customer base, and we are going to continue to see more emergence of energy efficiency technologies and solutions, decarbonization, sustainability as a practice being implemented corporate-wide. We will continue to see the proliferation of distributed energy resources as just because of some of the things that we talked about with regards to hardening and providing resiliency. So I think you're just going to continue to see the drive and the evolution of our networks to this. We've always talked about a grid 2.0 for years, but I think it's more relevant today than it's ever been, even when we started deploying smart meters, 20 years ago, and doing things like that. So absolutely appreciate being on the panel today. Thanks for the great discussion.
Thanks, Trent. Alec, final comments?
I can only echo Trent's perspective. I do believe that energy industry overall, although yes, there is a shift of some shape or form, but nonetheless, it's going to have an extremely bright future because, as I said, as a technological civilization, we're defined by our ability to generate and consume energy. And I do not think that energy footprint globally is going to subside anytime soon. Very likely it's going to be in the opposite direction. Digital applications in carbon and energy, that's the shift that's manifesting itself rather rapidly, and we understand that. I think emergence of practical applications of machine learning and AI is going to truly shake up the way how we can operate, at least on the building level, probably on the grid level, probably on virtual distributed utility level. I think we're going to become more efficient. I think we're going to become smarter, and we're going to become less wasteful. That's my forecast.
I'd like to see us take a leadership around the globe. This is, I think, sometimes I feel doing the global work that I do, feel we've been behind. Whether that's true or not, that's probably up for debate, but I do feel that we haven't been the leaders in this space that we should have been. We probably have the technology, we just haven't moved it fast enough.
Well, very good. I hope from our perspective, both of you have predicted a future that we all get to see over the next several years. And but more importantly, thank you for today. Thank you for being part of this panel. It was wonderful having this conversation with both of you, and certainly wish you both the best of success. And thank you again to GridWise Alliance and Clean Edge for putting on this conference and allowing us to have this discussion today. So, gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, Alec. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
And good luck with the rest of 2020.
Absolutely. You as well.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.